Guys, this has been amazing. Such an amazing conversation. I want to open it up to you now. What questions are you wanting to ask each other? Ask me? What do you want to explore in a little bit more detail? Maybe throw your hand up if you've got a question so I can see who can go first. Brigitte, go for it.
That's a friendly name.
I just thought I would... Sorry, I just called you Bridgie. I'm like straight into the we're besties.
Only my mother calls me Bridgie. But you can if you want to. I just wondered, Pat, if you mind if I ask you a question about a comment that you made earlier on. You mentioned that you see yourself as being a sensitive person, and I can relate to that. Did you find that your assessment helped you to understand that a little bit more?
Honestly, no. And it's one bit of my emotional intelligence I think I've always been fairly in touch with. It's I've always known I'm fairly sensitive and emotive, and more so than I guess I gauge myself against. You know, if I look at a broad spectrum of other males I know in that particular area, those particular points I score fairly highly on. So it didn't surprise me. It was more so looking at all the other bits that come along with that as well. And how I guess, you know, looking at some of the negative aspects of scoring really high in those regards too, like, you know, how you can then balance that out, or which other parts of your personality are affected by being high in those areas. So, I found it challenging, and it's, it's, I guess, you know, hard to be on the front foot and be more forward and, as I kept saying, assertive and at times even aggressive if you needed to protect yourself. It's I struggle in those areas. Did that answer your question, Bridget? It's
it did. Yeah. Also, only if you feel comfortable, but how did it show up on your assessment? What attributes come higher that kind of it shows up, you know, your sensitivities?
Yeah, and I'm really sorry because I don't have it open in front of me to go back and be able to put my finger on it right at the moment. But Caron being the professional,
I can tell you that your highest scores, if you're comfortable with me sharing, because
absolutely, Caron. Yeah, no, go for it.
Information.
Honestly, I don't mind if you pull me apart.
I won't. So your highest scores were emotional expression and emotional self-awareness. And then tied for third was empathy and interpersonal relationships. So what I want to unpack with that is that I don't think it's possible to be too sensitive. I think it's, again, not enough utilization of the other aspects of your emotional intelligence, the ones in which you scored lower in, and bringing those up and finding resources to increase that within yourself. What we haven't talked about is that I've offered you guys the assessment and the debrief. Ordinarily, that would not be the end of the experience. You would continue to receive coaching on a, you know, weekly or bi-monthly or even monthly experience so that you gradually increase your emotional intelligence. I don't have capacity to do that, but I certainly have a community of people who can support you to continue your emotional intelligence journey. You touched on how you didn't necessarily get to talk about or necessarily understand your sensitivity through this assessment, it's only because in the debrief, we didn't talk about it. I didn't touch on it because I could see there was something else more important. However, in continued coaching, that would come up and you would be able to understand those aspects of yourself. I'd say the same thing with you, Bridge. So understand that increasing your emotional intelligence is not a once-off, or doing your assessment, it's not a once-off thing. It is a journey of self-improvement, like any coaching is. It is, you're in for the long game when you engage with a coach, because they've got to know your mechanisms and how you think and how you work. And a good coach looks for your daily interactions and experiences to help you reflect back on yourself, to help you learn about what you're doing. Again, context. I intentionally did not give you guys your report ahead of time. I gave you 1 hour to look at your report before our debrief. As Laura highlighted earlier, it's a very, in fact, I think all of you have touched on it, it's a very in-depth report. But Laura had pointed out that it's very easy to reach your own conclusions about your results. And I never wanted that for you, because you can misinterpret the information. But a coaching relationship takes you through those results gradually, according to your comfort zone, so that you're only pushed a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, so that it's not a complete meltdown experience. That's vital, because we cannot click our fingers and be a different person. We must wire our brains differently. This is neuroplasticity. It is gradually changing the way we perceive ourselves and interact in the world. That's what I love about it. That's what I absolutely geek out about, because we will never, ever be perfect. And I think that when you describe yourself as being too sensitive or being a sensitive person, try not to see that as a bad thing, and look at the context in which that sensitivity should be lessened and other aspects of who you are need to be increased.